Most people live as prisoners to opinions that don't even exist. They wake up every morning terrified of being seen in a way they didn't script, terrified that someone somewhere might think something negative. And the tragedy is this: in trying so hard to look perfect, they never get the chance to actually become great. The world is filled with people who cared so much about judgment that they never tried, never failed, never learned, never lived. Imagine how insane it is that someone would rather remain average their whole life just to avoid being called cringe for a moment. People don't chase their dreams because they fear the laughter of those who will never achieve anything themselves. They don't post their art because someone might say it's bad. They don't start a business because someone might call it a scam. They don't confess their feelings because someone might reject them. They don't express their personality because someone might whisper about it. They don't live, they act, they perform, they pretend, and then they wonder why life feels empty. Humans were not born to be controlled by imaginary opinions. Your job is not to impress the world. Your job is to build a life that feels right to you. You will not be remembered for how well you fit in with the crowd. You will be remembered for how boldly you stood apart from it. Every person you admire today was laughed at once. Every creator, every entrepreneur, every athlete, every thinker, every rebel who changed the world had a moment where people called them stupid, crazy, unrealistic, or arrogant. And while everyone was laughing, they were building. While everyone was judging, they were learning. While everyone was doubting, they were growing. Until one day, the same mouths that spoke against them began to speak about them with respect. That is the power of not caring what people think. That is the power of choosing your future over their opinions. The truth is, most people secretly want to be free, but they are too scared of being judged by people who aren't even free themselves. You think others are confident, but they are just as insecure as you, only better at hiding it. The person who laughs at your dream is terrified to chase their own. The person who calls you cringe wishes they had your courage. The person who calls you weird is secretly impressed that you are different. The person who doubts you hopes you never prove them wrong, because if you succeed, they will be forced to face their own failure. The world does not attack you because you're wrong. It attacks you because you remind people of what they could be. Your effort exposes their laziness. Your confidence exposes their insecurity. Your improvement exposes their excuses. That is why becoming your true self is an act of rebellion. And the beautiful part is that the moment you stop living for approval, your entire life changes. You speak differently. You walk differently. You work differently. You stop wasting time convincing people and start dedicating time building yourself. You turn silence into power, rejection into fuel, and failure into wisdom. When someone judges you, you don't react because you realize their words are nothing but noise. An opinion cannot stop you. A joke cannot break you. A critic cannot control you. You become untouchable the moment you understand that nobody's thoughts can take away what you are trying to become. The greatest freedom in this world is not money, fame, or status. It is psychological freedom, the ability to wake up and not care what anyone thinks about your life. Do you know how rare that is? 99% of people live in mental cages they built themselves. They don't need guards or locks. Their fear does the job. But the ones who break out, they become unstoppable. They become innovators, leaders, visionaries, legends. They create movements. They inspire millions. They change the world because they stopped fearing the world. When you stop caring about opinions, you start trying more things. You start learning faster. You stop worrying about embarrassment because embarrassment doesn't kill you. Stagnation does. You begin to realize that failure is not humiliation, it is education. You understand that every mistake makes you sharper and every attempt makes you stronger. Soon, you start winning simply because you tried longer than everyone who quit to protect their image. Confidence is not about believing no one will judge you. Confidence is believing you will be okay, even if they do. That is real power. That is the kind of confidence no one can steal, because it doesn't come from their approval, it comes from your growth. Build your life like a fortress. Skill as the bricks, discipline as the walls, purpose as the foundation, and indifference to opinions as the gates that only open for those who deserve to come in. You don't need to shout that you are strong. Strength shows itself in silence. You don't need to prove your worth. Results speak louder than words. You don't need to argue with criticism. Time exposes everything. Every person who has ever mocked you will face the same moment, the moment you succeed without them. And that silence will be louder than any insult they ever threw. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your ambition. You don't need permission to dream. You don't need approval to change. You are not responsible for being understood. You are responsible for becoming who you are capable of being. If people can't understand your vision, good. It wasn't meant for them. Your life is yours. Your path is yours. Your future is yours. And if you want to unlock the highest version of yourself, you must be willing to disappoint a lot of people who expected you to stay small. You must be willing to lose people who only liked you when you behaved like them. You must be willing to outgrow environments that expect you to shrink. Growth demands transformation, and transformation demands that you stop living like a mirror for others and become a window to yourself. The only voice that deserves power in your life is your own. Not the voice of doubt, fear, insecurity, or past pain, but the voice of the person you are becoming. The world does not get to define your worth. The world does not get to write your story. You are not here to fit in. You are here to evolve. Some will mock you. Some will misunderstand you. Some will underestimate you. Let them. They don't matter. They won't matter. Their opinions dissolve into history the second you stop giving them meaning. What matters is that you refuse to waste another year living like a shadow of yourself. What matters is that you choose yourself even if no one else does. What matters is that when your life ends, you can say, I lived on my terms, not theirs. Because in the end, the ones who laugh at you now will be forgotten. The ones who doubt you now will be insignificant. But the life you build, the power you gain, the mindset you develop, that stays. That is yours forever. So step forward without fear. Let the world talk. Let them gossip. Let them judge. Your purpose is louder than their noise. Your future is bigger than their opinions. And every great thing that will ever happen in your life begins with a single decision. I no longer care what anyone thinks. I care only about who I am becoming.
Everyone wants to be free, but very few actually are, because the cage isn't made of metal, it's made of other people's opinions. The world has silently trained you since childhood. Be good so people like you. Dress properly so they don't talk. Don't make mistakes or they'll laugh. And without even realizing it, most people spend their entire lives performing for an invisible audience that isn't even watching. The truth is harsh. Almost no one is thinking about you. Everyone is too busy worrying about themselves, their insecurities, their future, their image. Yet you run every decision through the filter of, what will they think? You hesitate to speak, to chase dreams, to admit passions, to start projects, because the judgment of people who don't feed you, support you, or even know you feels heavier than your own desire to live freely. You've been programmed to value approval more than happiness, validation more than peace, and admiration more than authenticity. But here's the secret every mentally strong person learns. The moment you stop chasing validation, you become powerful. The moment you stop explaining yourself, you become mysterious. The moment you stop caring what people think, you start living like someone who breathes without fear. Think about it. Every time you stop yourself from doing something, the voice that holds you back isn't yours. It's the imagined opinion of someone else. The reason so many people stay average is because they choose to stay acceptable. They don't risk being laughed at, so they never get good. They don't risk being seen as weird, so they never become unique. They don't risk failing publicly, so they fail privately for the rest of their lives. Most people would rather be liked than great. They would rather stay comfortable than evolve. They wear a mask because they are terrified that once it comes off, someone might not like the real them. But here's the iron reality. No matter what you do, someone will judge you. If you're quiet, they'll say you're boring. If you speak up, they'll say you talk too much. If you work hard, they'll call you obsessed. If you relax, they'll call you lazy. Judgment is guaranteed. So why live as if their words matter more than your life? The only real freedom in this world is the freedom from opinion. When you stop seeking permission, you become unstoppable. When you stop apologizing for who you are, you become dangerous. When you stop chasing approval, you attract respect. Every successful person was laughed at before they were praised. Every genius was ridiculed before they were admired. Every strong mind was doubted before they were respected. People call ideas stupid until those same ideas succeed. Then suddenly, everyone always believed in you. Let people talk. Their words are wind, they vanish. But your actions, discipline, and results carve your name into time. No one remembers the critics. Everyone remembers the doers. Yet the world is full of people terrified of starting. You want to post a video but think, what if no one likes it? You want to start a business but think, what if people think I'm trying too hard? You want to work out but think, what if people laugh at me? Let them laugh. Let them talk. Let them judge. They are spectators. You are the player. And here's the funny part. The ones who judge the loudest are always the ones doing the least. The ones who say you changed are the ones who never grew. The ones who call you cringe are the ones too scared to try. People don't hate you because you're wrong. They hate you because you remind them of what they could be. Your progress exposes their laziness. Your ambition exposes their excuses. Your improvement threatens their comfort. So of course, they want you to stay average. Of course, they want you to stay predictable, quiet, and small. Because the moment you rise, you prove that they could have risen too. That's why successful people don't listen to opinions. They listen to results. You don't need the world to understand you. You don't need applause. You don't need permission. The lion does not concern himself with the opinions of sheep. The eagle does not fly at the height of pigeons. Kings don't argue with peasants. Winners don't explain themselves to quitters. You don't owe anyone a version of yourself that makes them comfortable. The day you realize this is the day you start living. Stop hiding your talents. Stop shrinking so others feel big. Stop apologizing for wanting more. You are not here to please, impress, or fit in. You are here to evolve, to grow, to rise, to build, to conquer. People will call you selfish for focusing on yourself, but the same people won't help you when your life is falling apart. People will call you crazy for chasing dreams, but those same people will ask how you did it once you succeed. People will say you've changed, but that's what growth is. If you stay the same your whole life, that's the real tragedy. You owe it to yourself to become the strongest version of who you are, even if it means being misunderstood. The truth is simple. You can either live a life controlled by other people's opinions, or a life controlled by your own goals. One gives you fear, the other gives you freedom. It takes courage to disconnect from approval. It takes courage to say, I don't care if you don't like me. It takes courage to build without support, to practice in silence, to chase something only you can see. But the reward is independence. The reward is confidence. The reward is peace. Nothing is heavier than the weight of pretending. Nothing is more exhausting than acting for an audience. Nothing is more painful than burying who you are because you fear judgment. Your life belongs to you. Stop renting it out to random people with opinions that don't matter. Here's what people don't tell you. The moment you stop caring, life gets easier. You speak freely, you work boldly, you move without fear, you experiment, you fail, you learn, you grow. You stop trying to be understood by small minds. The world tries to make you fit in, but greatness only comes from those who stand out. Be the one who dares, be the one who tries, be the one who gets up after being laughed at. Because those who laugh at you now will one day be silent when you win. And nothing is more satisfying than proving yourself to yourself, not to them. Confidence isn't, everyone will like me. Real confidence is, I'll be fine, even if they don't. You don't need to change the world's opinion, you only need to stop letting it control you. The only permission you need is your own.
There comes a moment in your life where you either decide to keep living the way everyone expects, or you finally rebel and become who you are meant to be, and that moment is quiet, invisible, and personal. Nobody else sees it, but it changes everything. One day you wake up and you're tired of pretending, tired of shrinking, tired of apologizing for existing, tired of acting like you are less than you are, tired of begging for approval from people who have achieved nothing you want. And in that moment, something clicks. You realize the people whose opinions you feared the most are not smarter than you, not braver than you, not wiser than you. They're just louder. You realize that the critics you ran from spend their lives watching from the sidelines because they're too afraid to play. You realize that the people judging you don't actually want the best for you. They want you predictable, controllable, and identical to them. People only hate what reminds them of their own weakness, and the reason others want you silent is because your ambition exposes their excuses. But when that realization hits you, the fear dies. You start doing things you once thought were impossible. You start taking risks that once paralyzed you. You start expressing your real opinions, not the watered-down version designed to offend nobody. You stop dressing for others, performing for others, planning your life around others. You stop asking, what if they don't like it? And start asking, what if I succeed beyond anything they imagined? That is the moment your life begins. That is the moment the universe opens its doors. Because life does not reward the timid, it rewards the bold, the courageous, the ones who are willing to walk alone for a while. And make no mistake, when you stop caring what people think, you will walk alone in the beginning. You will outgrow friends who only liked you when you were small. You will disturb family members who expect you to be predictable. You will lose people who only love the weaker version of you. But that is not loss, that is clearance. Life is removing the ones who cannot follow you into the future. And when the wrong people leave, the right ones arrive. The ones who support you, understand you, grow with you, celebrate your progress instead of mocking it. You will not be alone forever. There is a whole world full of people who are building, improving, dreaming, and becoming. But you will not find them until you step out of the cage. Once you do, something else happens. You begin to love yourself as you are, not as someone else wants you to be. You start respecting your own effort, even if the results are small at first. You feel pride in trying, even when you fail. You start to enjoy your own company. You start to trust your own decisions. And when you trust yourself, you don't need the world to agree with you. Self-trust is the foundation of confidence. It is knowing that no matter what happens, you will handle it. And when you have that, judgment feels like wind. It blows past you, invisible and powerless. People can laugh, talk, criticize, misunderstand you, and nothing changes because you are no longer controlled by anyone's approval. Most people spend their lives chasing acceptance, but acceptance is a trap. The more you chase it, the more you lose yourself. The more you agree to fit in, the more you disappear. And at the end of your life, you won't remember the strangers who judged you. You will remember the dreams you killed for them. Imagine how tragic it would be to reach the final years of your existence and realize the only reason you never lived boldly was because you cared about people whose names you can't even remember. No achievement, no success, no creation, no great life ever came from someone who was scared of being judged. Greatness requires risk, creativity requires freedom, success requires defiance, and happiness requires authenticity. You will never be happy pretending to be someone else. You will never be fulfilled living by someone else's rules.
The world tells you to dim your light to avoid attention, but lights are meant to shine. The world tells you to be realistic, but every innovation in history was unrealistic until it happened. The world tells you to stay in line, but lines are for followers, not leaders. You don't rise by obeying, you rise by believing. You don't evolve by fitting in, you evolve by breaking the pattern. And the moment you take your life into your own hands, the world becomes something different. Food tastes better, sleep feels deeper, time feels faster. Every day feels like movement instead of repetition. You no longer feel like a spectator, you feel alive. You feel like you are becoming someone you can respect. And when you respect yourself, you stop begging for respect from others. You become selective with your time, your energy, your attention. You stop tolerating people who drain you, relationships that limit you, environments that shrink you. You stop explaining yourself to those who are committed to misunderstanding you. You stop trying to impress those who are impossible to impress. You start building instead of defending. You start learning instead of arguing. You start winning instead of complaining. You start living instead of hoping. The fear of judgment disappears when your focus shifts from them to you. Their opinions become background noise, irrelevant and quiet. The world becomes bigger, but your world becomes smaller, filled only with what matters. Dreams, goals, passion, purpose, growth, discipline, confidence. And from there, you begin to create results. Real results. Not imagined success, not someday success, but tangible progress. Money, skills, strength, opportunity, respect. People who once ignored you suddenly ask how you did it. People who once mocked you get quiet. People who once doubted you start copying you. And you smile, not because you need their approval, but because you finally understand none of them mattered. The ones who judged you never stopped you. The only thing that ever stopped you was your belief that their judgment mattered. Once you kill that belief, you become untouchable. They can't embarrass you if you don't care. They can't shame you if you don't accept shame. They can't stop you if you don't give them permission. You are not fragile. You are not weak. You are not controlled by anyone's imagination. You are powerful, but that power only activates when you stop trying to live like everyone else. The world belongs to those who own themselves, not to the obedient, not to the silent, not to the scared, but to the ones who wake up every day and choose themselves. And that choice is not made once, it's made daily. Every time you speak your mind instead of holding it in, you choose yourself. Every time you try something new instead of waiting, you choose yourself. Every time you say no to what drains you, you choose yourself. Every time you think independently, move confidently, fail publicly, get up quietly, and keep going silently, you choose yourself. And life rewards those who choose themselves, with confidence, with clarity, with respect, with opportunity, with peace. One day you will look back and laugh at the years you wasted worrying about people who never cared. One day you will thank yourself for being brave enough to start. One day you will realize the loudest critics are now silent, and the quiet dreamer became the one everyone watches. And when that day comes, it will not be the applause that makes you proud. It will be the memory of the moment you finally said, "I don't care what anyone thinks. My life belongs to me."
Now, let's talk about handling judgment, because once you stop caring, the world tests you. Someone will comment something negative, someone will whisper, someone will laugh. And in that moment, most people break. They run back to safety, hide their talent, shut themselves down. But strong people do the opposite. They don't defend themselves, they don't argue, they don't explain, they don't beg to be understood. They simply keep moving. Silence is the most powerful answer to disrespect. When you give no reaction, you take away all their power. Remember this, a person who tries to insult you is secretly hoping to see you bothered. When you aren't, they lose. It drains them because their words hit air instead of emotion. So the best response to judgment is action. Keep posting, keep improving, keep working, keep growing. Nothing shuts a critic up faster than progress. And the moment you start winning, the same people who doubted you will pretend they supported you from the start. It's always been this way. People mocked Tesla, then he became iconic. They ridiculed Edison, then he lit the world. They laughed at Muhammad Ali, then they called him the greatest. They doubted Cristiano Ronaldo, then they worshipped him. Society attacks anyone who has potential before that potential blooms. So, if they're coming at you, good. It means they see something in you that scares them. Judgment is proof you're doing something different. Weak minds only hate what threatens their comfort. Strong minds, on the other hand, don't hate, they build. They don't gossip, they grind. They don't tear people down, they rise on their own effort. That's what you must become. A person whose self-respect comes from action, not approval. Self-respect means this: you see your own value before anyone else sees it. You believe in your path even when no one understands it. You trust your vision even when everyone doubts it. You don't need compliments to feel confident. You don't need applause to keep going. You don't need likes to validate your identity. Because when you respect yourself, you don't chase love, you attract it. You don't chase attention, you command it. You don't chase acceptance, you stand on your own and people naturally come to you. The strongest people in history were always the ones who didn't care about public opinion. Socrates was hated by society, yet he became the father of philosophy. Marcus Aurelius was criticized as a leader, yet is remembered as one of the greatest emperors. Galileo was called insane for believing the Earth wasn't the center of the universe, yet he changed science forever. Every revolutionary mind faced judgment. Every idea worth spreading was once considered stupid. Every person who changed the world was once labeled crazy. If society always punished new thinkers, why would you ever seek society's approval? Greatness requires separation. If you want to build a life no one else has, you must be willing to be seen as someone no one else is. You must be willing to stand alone for a while. You must be willing to walk a path that looks strange to normal people. But eventually the path pays off. And when it does, the world becomes silent. Not because they finally understand you, but because you no longer need them to. The moment you stop caring is the moment you start winning. It's the moment you feel light, sharp, confident, alive. You speak without fear. You move without hesitation. You live without apology. And in that state, life opens up in ways it never does for people who are scared of opinions. Opportunities appear. Creativity flows. Courage arises. You realize the world never had chains around you. You were holding them yourself. Let go. Break free. Live for yourself, not for their approval. Because at the end of your life, no one's opinion will matter. No one's judgment will matter. The only regret people take to their graves is not living the life they truly wanted.
And the craziest part is this: the second you stop caring what people think, people start caring what you think. The moment you no longer seek approval, you become someone others subconsciously respect. Why? Because confidence is magnetic, authenticity is rare, and fearlessness is intimidating. People spend their whole lives acting, so when they finally meet someone real, someone who speaks without apology, someone who moves without hesitation, someone who doesn't beg for validation, it shakes them. Some admire it, some fear it, some envy it, but no one can ignore it. Humans are wired to follow those who don't flinch, who don't bend, who don't tremble under the weight of other people's opinions. And you might not realize it yet, but every time you put yourself out there, every time you upload the post, every time you share your art, every time you speak up, every time you show your ambition, you are breaking generations of programming designed to make you small and obedient. People are taught to be liked before they are taught to be strong. They are taught to fit in before they are taught to stand alone. They are taught to follow rules before they are taught to question them. But nothing legendary has ever been born from obedience. Every revolution began with someone who refused to accept the world as it was. Every breakthrough began with someone who didn't care if people laughed first. Every legacy began with someone who trusted themselves more than they feared rejection. And that is what you are becoming, someone dangerous to the world of average. Not dangerous because you hurt anyone, but because you inspire others to wake up. And society hates that. Society can tolerate one free person, but the moment a free person influences others, the system starts to crack. That is why the average mindset attacks ambition, That is why lazy people attack effort. That is why insecure people attack confidence. Your strength threatens the comfort of the weak. Your success threatens the excuses of the stagnant. Your courage exposes the fear of the cowards. When you understand this, judgment becomes a compliment. Hate becomes confirmation. Doubt becomes fuel. You start to smile when someone underestimates you because you know they are measuring your future with the limits of their mind. They have no idea what you're capable of. They don't know how far you can climb. They don't know how much you can sacrifice. They don't know how focused, disciplined, hungry, and relentless you can become once you stop living for their approval. And once you stop living for approval, you start designing your life, not reacting to it. You start setting standards, not accepting leftovers. You stop begging for attention because your presence becomes enough. You stop saying yes to everything because you finally understand that saying yes to everyone means saying no to yourself. The more you value yourself, the more the world values you. You don't chase people. You don't chase likes. You don't chase validation. You chase improvement, and improvement brings everything else with it. The gym makes you stronger. Books make you wiser. Work makes you wealthier. Habits make you consistent. Silence makes you calmer. Discipline makes you unstoppable. While everyone else is busy talking, you are busy becoming. While everyone else is scrolling, you are building. While everyone else is laughing at others, you are learning from yourself. And in a year, 5 years, 10 years, the difference becomes enormous. People will call it luck. People will call it talent. People will call it privilege. But deep down, you will know the truth. You only won because you stopped caring what anyone thought and started caring about what you could become. Life is simple. You either let the world shape you, or you shape the world around you. You either follow or you lead. You either obey fear or fear obeys you. Most people never get this far. They die in the same mental cage they were born into, begging for acceptance from people who don't even accept themselves. But a few escape. A few realize that opinions cannot touch you unless you let them. A few realize that judgment is powerless unless you believe it. A few realize that the only thing that ever held them back was a voice in their head that never belonged to them in the first place. And when those few break free, they don't just change their life, they change the energy of every room they walk into. When you stop caring what people think, you become unpredictable. And unpredictable people are powerful because no one can guilt trip them, manipulate them, or control them. You can't bribe someone who doesn't need approval. You can't intimidate someone who embraces risk. You can't embarrass someone who doesn't believe in shame. That is real freedom, not the fake kind sold on motivational posters. Real freedom is psychological, the ability to live your life without being owned by the thoughts inside another person's mind. Imagine how different the world would be if more people lived like that. No more wasted ideas, no more suppressed creativity, no more hidden talent, no more silent dreams. The world would evolve faster. People would innovate without fear. Art would explode in complexity. Businesses would rise from nothing. People would live boldly instead of cautiously. Humanity would actually grow. And that growth begins with individuals who decide that they are done being scared of words. Words don't break bones. Words don't end lives. Words don't stop destiny. But fear does. Fear is the invisible chain that has ruined more dreams than failure ever will. And the only way to kill fear is action. You don't negotiate with it. You don't wait for it to go away. You walk straight into it until it dissolves. One post, one attempt, one sentence, one opportunity, one decision. And suddenly, fear realizes it has no control over a mind that refuses to bow. You want to know the quickest way to stop caring what people think? Do the thing they told you not to do. Go to the gym even if you feel insecure. Make the video even if your voice shakes. Start the business even if you don't know everything. Learn the skill even if you look stupid at first. Express your passion even if no one supports it yet. Every act of self-expression is a punch thrown at fear.
Every step forward is a rebellion. Every moment you choose yourself over their voices, your identity strengthens. Soon you will realize that the opinions you feared were nothing but shadows, loud in your mind, silent in reality. And once you escape that illusion, you become unstoppable. Not because life gets easier, but because you get harder to break. Not because the world becomes kinder, but because you stop needing the world to be kind. Not because judgment disappears, but because it stops mattering. You become someone who cannot be controlled, someone who cannot be threatened, someone who cannot be persuaded out of their path. People respect that. People fear that. People follow that. But you don't become it for them. You become it for you. Because at the end of your life, only one question will matter. Did you live as yourself, or did you live as someone else wanted? Most will live as portraits painted by others, but some, very few, will walk out of the frame and paint their own life. And those are the ones history remembers.
So, how do you actually stop caring what people think? It starts with one brutal realization. You cannot control other people's minds. You can be kind and someone will still hate you. You can be generous and someone will still judge you. You can be quiet and someone will still talk. The problem isn't you. The problem is that people project their insecurity onto anyone who dares to move differently. Once you accept that their opinions are out of your control, you stop wasting energy trying to manage them. The average person wakes up and immediately wonders what others would approve of, what others would like, what others would respect. But the person who breaks free wakes up and asks only one question: what do I want to build today? Your life is not a performance for the world. It is a responsibility to yourself. Here's the truth. Most of the judgment you fear exists only in your imagination. You think people are watching your every move, but they're not. You think they are talking about you, but they're not. Everyone is too busy analyzing their own flaws, hiding their own weaknesses, fighting their own battles. The spotlight you think is on you is actually on everyone else's worries. Once you understand this, you stop living life like a nervous actor and start living like the director. Another step. Understand that every opinion comes from someone's personal reality, not universal truth. If someone calls you stupid, that's not a fact. That's a reflection of their mindset. If someone calls you cringe, it just means you dared to do something they're afraid of. If someone calls you arrogant, it's often because your confidence threatens their insecurity. People judge from their perspective, their upbringing, their jealousy, their pain. Their opinion is not your identity. Their criticism is not your truth. Their insult is not your reflection. You are not who they say you are. You are who you consistently become. Once you understand this, their words lose power. Another key: build something. The more you focus on your goals, the less energy you have to fear opinions. When you're busy leveling up, you don't have time to care what anyone thinks. Work silences doubt, discipline destroys insecurity, action kills overthinking, confidence is built through progress, not through approval. Start with small things. Wear what you want, say what you feel, post the content you believe in, try the thing you've been scared of. At first, your mind will panic because it's addicted to validation. You will worry someone won't like it. You will wait for someone to approve it. But once you do it anyway, something powerful happens. You survive. The world doesn't end. No one actually cares. Suddenly you realize the prison door was never locked. You just never tried to push it open. Another truth: people only judge beginners. Once you succeed, they call you inspiring. Once you make money, they call you smart. Once you become confident, they call you cool. So why care what they say now when they say the opposite later? Every master was once mocked. Every champion was once doubted. Every legend was once dismissed. People don't believe until they see proof. And that's fine, because you don't need belief to build. You need discipline. You need courage. You need hunger. And the more you grow, the quieter their opinions become. Another powerful shift. Ask yourself this: what has caring ever done for you? Has it made you happier? Has it made you richer? Has it made you more confident? Or has it made you anxious, hesitant, scared, and controlled? Caring about opinions steals your potential. It kills your creativity. It destroys your identity. You cannot build a new life if you are busy protecting an image of the old one. You can't become the strongest version of yourself if you're scared someone will not approve. You can't win big while thinking small. You must choose their approval or your ambition. You cannot have both. And here is something life-changing. The moment you accept being misunderstood, you become untouchable. Let them think you're weird. Let them think you're different. Greatness always looks strange in the beginning. There's nothing powerful about a person who fits in. The world is shaped by those who stand out. So stop shrinking, stop waiting, stop hesitating, stop caring. Live loudly, move boldly, try fearlessly, fail publicly if you must, because failure teaches more than their opinions ever will. The people who laugh are already behind you. The people who criticize are secretly inspired. The people who doubt you now will regret it later. So go forward with the mindset of a warrior who answers to no one. You were not born to please the world, you were born to build yours. The only person you owe is the future version of yourself waiting to see what you become.
Most people never truly live because they are too busy performing for an audience that doesn't even exist, trapped inside a mental prison built from the opinions of people who don't matter, can't help them, and won't be there when life gets hard. Since childhood, you were trained to behave in a way the world would approve of. Don't say this, don't wear that, don't try this, don't dream too big, don't stand out too much, until your entire identity became a watered-down version of what society expected. Humans are born free, but raised to fear judgment more than failure, and that is why so many die with dreams still inside them. Think about how many opportunities people throw away because they are terrified of hearing a laugh, a comment, a rumor, a joke, a whisper. People would rather stay average forever than risk being embarrassed for 5 seconds. They avoid goals because someone might criticize them. They avoid creativity because someone might dislike it. They avoid becoming themselves because someone might not approve. And the most tragic part? The people they are scared of aren't confident, important, or successful. They are just loud. Loud insecurity, loud jealousy, loud opinions from people who are too afraid to chase anything themselves. The truth is simple. The ones who mock you are the ones doing less than you, and the ones doing more than you are too focused on their own growth to judge yours. But society doesn't teach you that. Society teaches you to blend in, obey, be agreeable, be predictable, because average people feel threatened when someone dares to be different. They want you small, silent, and scared. The moment you stop caring what people think, everything changes. The moment you stop apologizing for being yourself, power begins to rise in you. Suddenly you realize the chains on your hands were never locked. You were just too afraid to pull them off. Suddenly you realize that the people whose judgment intimidated you don't actually care about you. They're thinking about their own flaws, their own insecurities, their own problems. Nobody is analyzing your life with the intensity you imagine. After you post something, they scroll. After you speak, they forget. After you fail, they move on. You are the center of your world, but you are background noise in theirs. Once you understand this, fear becomes irrelevant, and when fear dies, life finally begins. Freedom does not come from money, success, or status. Freedom comes from indifference. Indifference to opinions, criticisms, and expectations. You speak freely, act boldly, and live honestly. You no longer shrink to make others comfortable. You no longer hide your talent to avoid jealousy. You no longer kill your dreams to avoid judgment. You become someone who is driven by purpose, not by applause. Anyone can be liked, but only a few can be respected. Anyone can fit in, but only a few have the courage to stand apart. The greatest leaders, creators, and minds in history were all judged, doubted, mocked, attacked, and none of that stopped them. People once laughed at electricity, airplanes, cars, rockets, computers, ideas that changed humanity. People always laugh at what they don't understand. So if someone laughs at you, that means you're doing something they can't see yet. Their laughter is proof of their limits, not yours. When you work in silence, the world assumes you're doing nothing. When you rise in silence, the world assumes it happened overnight.
They don't know about the hours, the rejections, the failures, the sacrifices, because people only see success after it's finished. That is why you should never waste time explaining yourself. It is not your job to convince anyone. The world will understand when you win, and if they don't, who cares? You will not die if someone dislikes you. You will not die if someone doubts you. You will not die if someone calls you cringe. But you will slowly die inside if you spend your entire life trying to be acceptable instead of extraordinary. Confidence is not, everyone will like me. Confidence is, I'll be fine even if they don't. When you truly adopt that mindset, nothing can break your spirit. Critics lose importance, insults lose power, doubt loses volume. You stop seeking validation because you validate yourself. You stop needing motivation because discipline carries you. You stop waiting for permission because you realize no one stronger than you lives by permission. You act, you move, you build, you learn, you fail, you rise, you evolve. Every attempt makes you more dangerous. Every failure makes you more experienced. Every rejection makes you more immune. You discovered that the world doesn't reward those who worry. It rewards those who try. The reason so many people stay stuck is because they are terrified of what others will think if they fail. But the truth is, people forget your failures faster than you do. You will lie awake at night thinking about your mistakes while everyone else is scrolling, eating, sleeping, arguing, living their own lives. You are not as visible as your anxiety tells you. Once you realize this, you stop living like a performer and start living like the main character of your own story. And the moment you do, you begin to notice opportunities you never saw before. You begin to take risks you never imagined. You begin building a life you once thought was impossible. And the world reacts differently to you. People start treating you with respect, not because they suddenly changed, because you did. You teach the world how to treat you by the way you treat yourself. If you walk with your head down, scared to exist, you will attract people who keep you down. But if you walk like someone who knows their value, even silently, people will feel it. There is a kind of quiet power that comes from self-belief. No bragging, no ego, just the energy of someone who doesn't need validation. That kind of person is unstoppable. That kind of person becomes a leader without trying. That kind of person succeeds even when the world doubts them. And one day, the same people who once talked behind your back will talk about you with admiration. They will pretend they always supported you, always believed in you, always knew you would make it. Let them lie. Let them rewrite history. Your focus should never be proving them wrong. Your focus should be becoming so powerful that you don't even hear them anymore. Life is short. You don't get a second version. Every day you spent worrying about opinions is a day you could have spent building a life you're proud of. At the end of your life, the only regret will be not being yourself sooner. The only regret will be silence when you wanted to speak, hesitation when you wanted to act, fear when you wanted to live. So stop asking for permission to exist. Stop weakening yourself to be acceptable. Stop letting the world decide who you're allowed to be. Go where you want, say what you believe, build what you dream, fail loudly, succeed silently, grow relentlessly. And above all, remember this: the only person who has to live with your choices is you, not your critics, not your classmates, not random people online. You. Their opinions fade, your regrets don't. Choose yourself every time, and let the world talk, because the world always talks, but only the brave ever rise.
So how do you build unshakable confidence, the kind that makes you immune to judgment? It starts with doing the things that scare you. Confidence is not created by thinking. You can't sit in your room and hope to become bold. Confidence is earned through action. Every time you do something you are afraid of, you take power back from fear. Post the video even if it gets 5 views. Go to the gym even if you feel watched. Start the business even if you fail. Speak your mind even if your voice shakes. Most people wait to feel confident before they act, but confidence only appears after you act. Action first, confidence second. That's the formula. Another thing, build skills. When you're good at something, opinions stop mattering. Skill gives you power. Skill gives you certainty. Skill gives you proof.
When you can back your confidence with competence, no one can shake you. You don't need to talk, you can show. You don't need to explain, you can demonstrate. The more you work on yourself, the louder your results become, and results shut every mouth. Another rule: stop overthinking. When you think too much, you create problems that don't exist. You imagine judgment, you imagine humiliation, you imagine disaster. But the moment you act, the imaginary world falls apart. Overthinking is fear's best weapon. Action is the cure. The more you think, the less you do. The less you do, the weaker you feel. The weaker you feel, the more you care what others think. So break this cycle. Don't think, do. Move, start, try. You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need permission. You just need momentum. Even a small step forward builds strength. Little wins turn to big wins. Big wins turn to unstoppable self-belief. Another key: stop apologizing for who you are. Stop shrinking your personality to avoid judgment. Stop acting smaller to make others comfortable. If you're loud, be loud. If you're quiet, be quiet. If you're different, stay different. The world already has too many copies. Originality is rare, and rare is valuable. People will always attack what stands out because it scares them. But in the end, originality is what gets remembered. Nobody remembers the ones who tried to blend in. The world remembers the bold, the fearless, the authentic. Self-confidence is also built by keeping promises to yourself. Wake up when you say you will, finish what you start, stick to your goals. Every time you follow through, you tell your mind, I can trust myself. And trust in yourself is the deepest form of confidence. It means you don't need approval, because you approve of yourself. You don't need validation because you validate your own path. And once you reach this level, no insult can break you, no criticism can shake you, no opinion can control you. You become someone who moves with quiet certainty, not loud ego, but silent power. And silent power is the strongest kind. It's the kind that makes others pay attention without you even trying. People can feel when you don't care what they think. They can feel when you are grounded, focused, unbothered. It intimidates the insecure and inspires the strong. That's the goal. Not to impress the world, but to rise above it. Once you do, life becomes simple. You focus on your mission, not their reactions. You stop chasing people and start chasing purpose. And the more you chase purpose, the more self-respect you build. The more self-respect you build, the less you care about judgment. It becomes a full circle. Ignore opinions, focus on improvement. Improve, gain confidence, ignore opinions even more. That is how powerful minds are made, not through approval, through independence. The kind of independence no one can take from you.
There is something you eventually learn when you stop caring what people think. You realize that most of the limits in life were never physical, never financial, never intellectual. They were psychological, built out of assumptions, fears, and imaginary consequences that never existed. You begin to see how much of life people spend hiding from ghosts. Ghosts of judgment, ghosts of embarrassment, ghosts of criticism, none of which can actually touch them. And as that realization grows, a strange kind of peace enters your mind. You stop waiting for the perfect conditions. You stop waiting for support. You stop waiting for applause. You stop waiting for permission. You just move. You make progress in silence. You start things without announcing them. You train when no one is watching. You build when no one believes. You grow in the dark so that when you finally bloom, the world has no choice but to notice. And the beauty of this transformation is that you are no longer motivated by being seen. You are motivated by becoming powerful. You start valuing results over recognition. You start valuing progress over validation. You start valuing your future over people's opinions. And the more you evolve, the more you realize something profound. People only try to control you when you are controllable. The moment you stop reacting, their power dissolves. The moment you stop seeking approval, they lose all leverage. The moment you stop explaining yourself, they have nothing to argue with. Silence becomes your shield.
Self-respect becomes your armor, and discipline becomes your sword. Most people crumble under judgment because they never built a relationship with themselves. They know the opinions of others, but not their own. They know what everyone else wants, but not what they want. And when you don't know who you are forced to borrow identity from external voices. But when you start learning yourself, what you believe, what you want, what you will tolerate, what you refuse, something powerful happens. You become rooted, grounded, unshakable. A tree with deep roots laughs at storms. A person with deep self-respect laughs at opinions. You begin to walk into rooms without looking at who's watching. You begin to speak without overthinking every word. You begin to show up without wondering if you're good enough because you already decided that you are. And once you decide, the world eventually agrees. Humans are followers. They respond to strength, to certainty, to authenticity. When you move like someone who knows where they're going, people get out of your way. Some will silently admire you. Some will secretly envy you. Some will act like they don't notice, but they do. Everyone notices the person who is not seeking to be noticed. Everyone feels the presence of the person who doesn't need permission to be themselves. And when you reach that point, you will start to see life with new eyes. You will realize that most of what scares people is imaginary. They fear being judged, but judgment is temporary. They fear failing, but failure is feedback. They fear being alone, but solitude is self-discovery. They fear being wrong, but mistakes are teachers. They fear being different, but difference is the gateway to greatness. Everything people fear is harmless compared to the cost of living a life that never belonged to them. And when you stop fearing these things, your world expands. You begin to take leaps instead of steps. You begin to bet on yourself instead of hoping someone rescues you. You begin to invest in your skills, your goals, your identity. You begin to build routines. You begin to honor your time. You begin to cut off distractions and the people who embody them. You stop giving energy to arguments. You stop giving emotion to insults. You stop giving attention to those who drain your spirit. You realize that the world is filled with people who want your energy, but not your success, your help, but not your growth, your presence, but not your power. And you learn to protect yourself. You learn that isolation is not loneliness, it is incubation. You learn that saying no is not rude, it is self-defense. You learn that silence speaks louder than explanation. You learn that the strongest battles you will ever fight are inside your own mind. And winning those battles is how you become unstoppable. When you stop caring about opinions, you become capable of making decisions others wouldn't dare to consider. You can change careers at 30, start a business with no experience, move to a new place, reinvent yourself entirely, become a beginner again. Because you no longer measure your life through someone else's expectations. You measure it through growth, joy, purpose, progress. And eventually, the world stops looking like a hostile judge and starts looking like a playground of opportunity. Doors that felt closed begin to open. Skills that felt impossible start to make sense. People who once ignored you begin to respect you. But the real reward is internal. You like yourself. You trust yourself. You live with yourself without needing distraction. Your mind is no longer a prison. It becomes an engine. Your thoughts become tools, not enemies. The noise outside becomes background static. The world stays loud, but you become quiet on the inside. Calm, focused, resilient, certain. This is not arrogance. This is ownership. Arrogance is pretending to be more than you are. Ownership is refusing to be less than you are. When you live with ownership, you stop blaming circumstances and start shaping them. You stop wishing and start working. You stop talking and start doing. You stop dreaming and start building. And building is how the world changes, not with opinions, but with action. Years from now, when you look back, you won't remember the strangers who judged you. You won't remember the comments that made you hesitate. You won't remember the people who laughed, doubted, or criticized. They will vanish like smoke. But you will remember every moment you chose courage. You will remember the first risk that paid off. You will remember the first time you looked fear in the eyes and moved anyway. You will remember the nights you worked when everyone else slept. You will remember the mornings you rose before the sun because you believed in your future more than your comfort. And most importantly, you will remember the exact moment you finally stopped trying to be accepted and started trying to be unstoppable. That moment is waiting. It doesn't require permission. It doesn't require applause. It doesn't require the world to be ready. It only requires you. One choice, live for them or live for yourself. One mindset, fear judgment or fear regret. One truth, the world never respected someone who begged for approval, but it always bowed to the ones who didn't need it. Your life doesn't begin when people believe in you. It begins when you believe in yourself.